That's But if, for example, if you do the new agreement and it gets backdated to the original, the end of the current one, if the franchise fee went from $325 to $350, the city would still be made whole, wouldn't it?
Yes, however, I think also if it were to move forward prior to the renegotiation of the agreement, that the current breakdown would apply until it changes. So if it goes from 3.25 to 3.5, and the current breakdown is the city gets about 10% and Cheshire TV gets 90%, that just wouldn't change. That would hold still until the, unless it were to change in the new agreement. So either way you look at it, yes, there is still a breakdown that would apply until that final agreement is.
The split is a different discussion from what the subscribers would be tapped for. You know, the three and a quarter that they're paying, or the 3.5 that is being requested. So they really are two different issues.
Okay.
But I'm in no rush to raise the charges to the public myself. Yep.
Is time of the essence from anybody's perspective? You know, how long will these negotiations take?
Not from staff's perspective. I don't think it is a rush. That's my take at the present time.
And how long will the negotiations take?
We're in the process of negotiating. I don't have an exact date for you. I imagine it'll take a couple of months.
City manager.
Yeah, I was only asking for a ballpark. I didn't name it down to October 31st.
Thank you, Joe MacLean, City Manager, and thank you, Rebecca. I'm probably going to help you a little bit with this question. I think that we're going to achieve the negotiations very quickly. We had a very satisfactory meeting with two participants here in the back room, Tom Cook and Lee Perkins, representing Cheshire TV. I believe that Rebecca's just trying to express, doing a very good job expressing, I should say, that there's been at least one issue that we still are working on. I think we came to some possible tentative ways in which to agree on something here in the short term. So a little bit of tune-up, I would say we can probably move this very quickly, and I would guess that we can make an adjustment relative to the split of the franchise fee if we need to.
John, but again, we're not talking about the split. It's the 3 1/4, 3.5.
Yes, but in our negotiations with Cheshire TV, that has been part of a conversation with us. And so but I do believe that we can deal with that without having to complicate this particular discussion here this evening.
Yeah.
I just heard two things. You said it was going to be rather quickly, and then Mrs. Landry said that there was no urgency on the staff's part. And so to me, when I'm sitting home listening to it, and I know that the contract has expired, and then the city goes and says there's no urgency on our part, that doesn't look like good. She may have misspoke, but that's when she said it was no urgency on the staff's part.
Well, thank you for pointing it out.
My understanding of the question was urgency in the need to raise the franchise fee, not in the negotiation process. I understood the question to be, is there an urgency to raise the fee for any reason? And my response to that was no, I don't believe there is. So I'm sorry for the confusion.
Okay, so this is what happens when two people from staff start talking about the same issue. But both of us are involved in the same negotiation, and we didn't have a chance here to speak before this meeting this evening, which is probably my fault, not available to her. But I do think that if we were to hear from the people representing Cheshire TV, they would say there is an urgency from their perspective, and that would be what you would expect. I think that the answer, honestly, from the city's perspective would be not so much, because we're not the ones that asked for the rate increase or the franchise fee increase, but we understand why they're asking for that. We've done a lot of work with them relative to this particular issue, and for the purposes of getting on with that process, I'm differing just a little bit here with Rebecca, with all great respect to her and deference to her good work in this regard. I think we can accommodate both processes.
Can we expect to be dealing with this at the next FOP meeting?
Well, if we can't,
You
we'll
don't have a
certainly-
crystal ball.
I think we'll be able to deal with it within the next several, and if we can't, we'll certainly be able to give a good answer why we can't.
Council Powers?
I guess Rebecca probably can answer this. If this is passed by the council, how long is it gonna take for Time Warner to implement?
It will be 60 to 90 days before it is actually charged to the consumers and collected, and then passed on to the city.
For the benefit of the folks at home, the difference between the 3.25 and the 3.5, what is the stated need for the increase or the use of the increase?
I believe that should come from Cheshire TV.
Which they can't speak at this meeting, because it's been a public
I
hearing.
could give you information on the amounts and what it is, and I think we've already got them on the record, but if you're interested in that.
Not the amounts, I was just trying to give the public a little more information other than just raising the price.
For the public's benefit, the franchise fee is collected by Time Warner. It is paid to the city. The city passes on the lion's share of that to Cheshire TV for their operations. Cheshire TV has mentioned in the past that they are interested in doing more. They have good ideas for how they can expand their content, and their costs are not going down.
Okay, that sounds like a reasonable explanation. You know, again, just trying to, we're the communicators also of what we're talking about to the public. Yes, Terry?
Well, I think I heard at the public hearing from representatives from Cheshire TV is that they have been incurring costs for quite some time, and the addition of Channel 10, I'm not sure if that added any cost, but they did recently cut back on some of the services that they offered to some of the people who wanted to get programming on. And if we're talking about a couple months for negotiations and then another 90 days for Time Warner, I would think that we should get the ball rolling as soon as we can. I don't anticipate that we're going to turn this down. So just in the interest of keeping Cheshire TV going smoothly, I'd be in favor of voting on it this evening.
Any other committee questions?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, our comment from staff is to at least put it on more time till the next meeting, so maybe this will motivate them. But
Is it my turn to make a motion?
Well, we don't have, we can make it up.
yes,
I agree with Terry that this needs to move along. And, but I don't agree with taking it a couple of months. I think it either has to come back to the FOP, our next meeting, or as the city manager says, in 2 meetings, we should know a reason why it ain't happening. If the contract, if the agreement between the city concerning the operation of it, that's totally different than the franchise fee. And I think the franchise fee would have to be voted on. It should be voted on this month.
and therefore, you want to make a motion, please? Let's be a bit decisive.
Whose turn is it?
I move that this committee recommend to the city council that they increase the franchise fee from 3.25% to 3.5%.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Committee comments? Public comments? No, public can't comment, sorry. Councilors can't comment, so it's just us. I will comment. I think that this should be held on more time. I'm not necessarily in support of raising the franchise fee as a concept, and if we are voting on this as the motion has been stated, I will be voting no. There, having been said, anyone else? All in favor? We've got 3, we've got 1 opposed. Okay, so that goes forward to the city council for its vote, and there is the potential that maybe there will be more information or something, or we may see it back again anyway. Final item on our agenda this evening. This is an item that was open for discussion at a previous meeting. City manager. There was an item that was brought to us via the manager's office, new concept in terms of filling police vacancies, where it takes a long time to hire, train, and to get an officer on the street. I'll let the city manager continue.
You're doing a fine job, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you very much. You're right on track. This came as a result of a conversation that we had during our budget sessions, and several members of City Council, particularly this committee, were very concerned about the numbers of police officers and our inability over the years to be able to keep our full quota of officers. And part of that is because of the very rigorous and exacting process we have for actually bringing people on board, sending them to the academy, making sure they go through a very, very strenuous but excellent training program, and we have people wash out because we do have very high standards for our Keene Police Department. As a result of that, we tend to not be at full complement. And I think the City Council recognized that. I think Councilor Powers, Councilor Filio in particular, both recognized that. And so I indicated at that time that I'd go back and work with the staff to see if I could come back with some way of attempting to try to keep that full complement going. And what we came up with was a process whereby, utilizing funds that were available from the previous year, we put aside a certain amount of money which would enable us to send more than one candidate to the academy, and then to have that number of candidates actually working through the system. In the event that we had a surplus in a given year of successful candidates by one, for example, well, we would be able to carry that extra person for that year. And then, because we're always having retirements and other attrition, we would absorb the additional officer into our complement. So we felt that this was a reasonable way to try to bring our levels of police officers to the full complement, recognizing, I think, as the City Council and those two individuals on the council, that our policing is very important in a community that has 3 colleges, a vibrant downtown, and lots of activity. So this is our program for doing that.
Comments, questions? We don't actually have, other than just this agenda item, we don't have any motion, or this was already previously discussed. And we had a motion from when it came up the first time. And I know there were some questions on the committee. Oh, thank you. Some questions from the committee regarding not the concept, but the funding mechanism for everything.
Yes, I believe that the concern was, well, why not use lapsed dollars that occur over a given year rather than take the lapsed dollars from the previous year? And the reason I would encourage you to stay with the program that we've offered and recommended, because we know we have those dollars, we don't know we have the others. If there were any particular issue where we had to have additional overtime or other costs associated with any kind of disaster or crisis, we would not have the additional funds, and I would be reluctant to release those funds until the very end of the year when we begin to determine whether or not there'd be a surplus. This gives us a little bit of a padding, if you will, that we don't have to depend on the current budget. We can put aside a small amount of money that we know is defined and is available to us, and allows us with some sense of safety relative to the overall fiscal responsibility to go forward.
Yeah.
2 questions. So how long would this fund go? Would it go from year to year, or would it continue over? And second, would this only be funded from surplus of the previous year's police budget, or would it come out of the general fund?
It could come out of the general fund, but right now I think that we recognize that there's been a surplus of lapsed salary, and it's only good for 1 year. The City Council would revisit this again next year, most likely ask us for an update relative to how successful have we been, what has it cost, what's the attrition rate been, and then reappropriate next year if you felt so inclined. So this is for 1 year. And you might call it an experiment to see if we can actually power up our numbers in the police department accordingly.
I think my question was, why wasn't it put in the original budget? I mean, we knew, what is it, we're 2 officers down, or 3?
Now, we have the money in the budget for the officers, if you will, but what we're really talking about here is sending an extra candidate to a school, to the academy.
Right, but there are 2 or 3 officers that aren't being filled.
Not necessarily all the time. Sometimes that just happened to occur at that one given moment that we were down because we had lost, through an announcement, that we had several retirements that occurred that we hadn't been able to plan for previously. I suppose the police chief could speak to this. And what he believes to be an appropriate program relative to this excess of money for police officers.
Yep.
During the budget discussions, this was brought forward. At that time, there was no additional money put into the budget to accommodate those conversations. And that's what really prompted the city manager, the finance director, and I to go back and talk about this, to try to come up with some type of plan or some type of system that could accommodate what was brought forward to us by the council, really. So currently, I can tell you, we have 2 frozen positions, and we've had those frozen for a number of years. I would say probably at least 8 to 10 years now. Right now, I have 2 officers in training, and I've had 1 retirement, 1 resignation in the last 2 months, and I have an officer retiring next week. So I'll have realistically 5 unfilled police officer positions that actually go out and do solo patrol work. The 2 officers that I have in training, I really don't count as deployment because they've just begun their field training program. They're in their 2nd week, and it's a 14-week program. And then they'll go to the police academy for 14 weeks, beginning in January.